been budgeting for months, maybe even years, and you're still broke at the end of every month. And I am going to tell you something that nobody wants to hear. The problem probably isn't your willpower. It's not that you lack discipline or that you're bad with money. The problem is that you're budgeting wrong. I know this because I budgeted wrong for 3 years straight. I had spreadsheets, I had apps, I had color-coded categories and expense trackers and weekly financial checks. I was doing everything the personal finance experts told me to do, and I was still constantly stressed about money, still overspending in some categories, still feeling like I was failing at something that seemed so simple when other people talked about it. Then I realized something. Most budgeting advice is designed by people who never actually struggled with money. For people who don't actually struggle with money, it's theoretical perfection that falls apart when it hits real life. So let me walk you through the 7 signs that your budget is working not because you're refailing, but because the budget itself is fundamentally flawed. And more importantly, I'm going to show you what actually works instead. Because here's the thing. Budgeting shouldn't make your life harder. It should make it easier. If your budget is causing more stress than relief, something is wrong with the budget, not with you. Sign number 1. Your budget looks perfect on paper, but fails in real life. Let me paint you a picture. You sit down on Sunday and create the perfect budget. Every dollar is allocated. Every category is reasonable. The math works beautifully. You feel like you finally figured it out. Then Wednesday happens. Your car needs gas, but you already spent this week's gas money. A coworker invites you to lunch, and you forgot to budget for socializing. Your grocery spending is already at $87, and it's only day 3 of the week. By Friday, the budget is completely destroyed, and you are back to winging it until next Sunday when you will create another perfect budget that will also fail by Wednesday. This was my life for 18 months. Every week I'd create a meticulous budget. Every week it would fall apart within days. I thought I was the problem. Turns out the problem was that I was budgeting for an idealized version of my life instead of my actual life. Here's what I learned. Your budget needs to be based on reality, not aspiration. Not how you wish you spent money, but how you actually spend money. I was budgeting $200 for groceries when I actually spent $320. I was budgeting 0 for eating out when I actually spent $80. I was budgeting $100 for miscellaneous when life regularly threw $250 of miscellaneous at me. The fix? Track your actual spending for 30 days without trying to change it. Just observe it. Then build your budget based on what actually happens, not what you think should happen. Yes, you'll find areas to cut, but you need to start from truth, not fantasy. My reality-based budget had higher numbers in some categories than I wanted, but it actually worked because it matched my life instead of fighting it. Sign number 2. You're budgeting every single dollar, and it's exhausting. There's this popular budgeting philosophy called zero-based budgeting, where every single dollar gets assigned a job. Income minus spending equals 0. Nothing is unallocated. In theory, this is smart. In practice, it's absolutely exhausting for most people. I tried zero-based budgeting for 6 months. I had 17 different budget categories. Groceries had its own category. Gas had its own category. Entertainment had its own category. Personal care had its own category. Pet supplies had its own category. Every single expense required a decision about which category it came from. Bought shampoo at the grocery store? That's personal care, not groceries. So I had to split the transaction. Bought dog food at Target, along with household items. Multiple categories again. I spent more time categorizing expenses than I spent actually thinking about whether the expenses were good decisions. This is sign number 2. If managing your budget takes more than 15 minutes per week, your budget is too complicated. The fix? Simplify drastically. I went from 17 categories to 5. Fixed expenses that don't change month to month. Variable essentials like groceries and gas. Lifestyle spending like entertainment and eating out. Savings and debt. Everything else, that's it. 5 categories. I could track my spending in about 8 minutes per week. The simpler budget was easier to maintain, which meant I actually maintained it. which meant it actually worked. Perfect categorization doesn't matter. Sustainable tracking matters. If your budget is so detailed that you hate dealing with it, you won't deal with it, and then it's useless. Sign number 3. You're only budgeting your regular income and ignoring irregular expenses. This is the trap that destroyed my budget more times than I can count. I'd create a perfect monthly budget based on my regular monthly income and regular monthly expenses. Rent, utilities, groceries, gas, insurance, all the predictable stuff. Then my car registration came due. $300 I didn't budget for. Or my cat needed a vet visit. $140 I didn't plan for. Or my friend's wedding required a gift. $75. That wasn't in my monthly budget. These aren't emergencies. They're irregular expenses that happen every single year. But because they don't happen every month, I kept acting surprised by them. This is what I call the irregular expense amnesia. You know these costs exist. You've paid them before. But because they're not monthly, they feel like emergencies when they show up. I tracked every unexpected expense for a full year. Turns out I had about $3,200 in irregular expenses that happened annually, but were UND monthly. That's $267 per month that I wasn't budgeting for. No wonder my budget kept failing. I was missing a quarter of my actual expenses. The fix: make a list of every single expense you have in a year, even if it only happens once. Car registration, yearly subscriptions, holiday gifts, birthday gifts, annual insurance premiums, vet visits, oil changes, everything. Add them all up. Divide by 12. That's your monthly irregular expenses budget that you need to set aside every single month. I created a separate savings account just for irregular expenses. Every month, I transferred $267 into it. When car registration is due, the money is there. When I need to buy birthday gifts, the money is there. These expenses stopped feeling like crises because I'd been budgeting for them all along. This one change eliminated about 70% of my budget stress. Sign number 4. You're using the wrong budgeting method for your brain. Here's something nobody tells you. Different budgeting methods work for different types of brains. The method that works for your friend might be completely wrong for you. And that doesn't mean you're doing it wrong, it means you're using the wrong method. I spent 2 years trying to make ape-based budgeting work because everyone said APs were the best way. I tried YNAB, EveryDollar, Mint, Pocket God, Good Budget, and about 8 others. They all failed for the same reason. My brain doesn't connect digital numbers on a screen to real money. When my app said I had $47 left in my dining out category, that felt abstract. I'd still overspend because the number didn't feel real. Then I tried cash envelopes. Put physical cash in labeled envelopes for different spending categories. When the dining out envelope was empty, it was very obviously empty. No abstract numbers, just physical reality. This worked for me because my brain needs tangible, physical feedback. But I have friends who would lose cash constantly and for whom digital tracking is perfect. Here's the thing. There's no morally superior budgeting method. There's just the method that works for your specific brain. The fix. If your budgeting method isn't working after 3 solid months of genuine effort, the problem isn't you. It's the method. Try a completely different approach. Some people need physical cash envelopes, detailed spreadsheets, simple app tracking, pen and paper notebooks, visual boards with progress tracking, automatic savings that happen without thinking. All of these work. None of these work for everyone. Stop trying to force yourself into a method that fights your brain. Find the method that works with your brain. I use a hybrid now. Cash envelopes for variable spending where I tend to overspend. Automatic transfers for savings and fixed bills. Simple spreadsheet for overall tracking. It's not elegant, but it works with how my brain actually functions. Sign number 5. You're budgeting for 1 month at a time, like you're a robot. Most budgeting advice treats every month like it's identical. Same income, same expenses, same priorities, but that's not how human life works. December has holiday expenses. July has vacation expenses. September has back-to-school expenses. If you have kids, your birthday month has birthday expenses. Some months your car needs maintenance. Some months you have multiple weddings. I was creating the same budget every month, and then being shocked when different months had different needs. It was like being surprised that winter is colder than summer predictable. But I kept acting like it was a surprise. Sign number 5. Your budget doesn't account for the fact that different months have different financial realities. The fix. Look ahead, at least 3 months. Know what's coming. Adjust your budget proactively instead of reactively. I now spend 30 minutes at the start of every quarter looking at the next 3 months. What irregular expenses are coming? What events am I attending that will cost money? What seasons changes will affect my utility bills? What maintenance items need to happen? My November budget looks completely different from my July budget because my life in November is completely different from my life in July. Some months I budget more for entertainment. Some months I budget more for gifts. Some months I budget more for savings because I know there's nothing big coming up. This seasonal approach to budgeting eliminated the constant feeling that I was failing. I wasn't failing, I was just using a one-size-fits-all budget for a life that naturally varies. Sign number 6. Your budget has no room for being human. This is the big one. The one that ruins more budgets than anything else. You create a budget that accounts for every necessary expense and every savings goal, and there's zero room for fun, spontaneity, mistakes, or being an actual human being who isn't a perfectly rational financial robot. Your budget says $0 for entertainment, $0 for eating out, $0 for anything that isn't absolutely necessary. Every dollar is optimized. You're going to save aggressively and pay off debt and build wealth, and nothing is going to stop you. Then life happens. You have a terrible day and you really want takeout. Your friends invite you out and you don't want to be the person who always says no. You see something on sale that you don't need but you genuinely want. And because your budget has no room for being human, any deviation feels like failure. So you either deny yourself everything fun and become miserable, or you break the budget and feel guilty. I did this for an entire year. My budget was so restrictive that I felt deprived constantly. I'd eventually break, spend money impulsively, feel terrible about it, and then create an even more restrictive budget to make up for it. It was a cycle of restriction, rebellion, guilt, and more restriction. And it didn't work because humans don't work that way. The fix. Budget for being human. Include money for fun, mistakes, and spontaneity. I now have a category called discretionary. That's $50 per month. That money can be spent on absolutely anything without guilt or tracking. Impulse coffee. Fine. Spontaneous lunch with a friend. Fine. Random thing I want for no good reason. Fine. $50 is small enough that it doesn't wreck my financial goals, but it's enough that I don't feel deprived. It's permission to be imperfect, built right into my budget. I also have a mistakes and miscellaneous category of $30 per month for the inevitable things I forgot to budget for, or the small financial errors everyone makes. These being human buffers make my budget sustainable because they acknowledge that I'm a person, not a financial optimization machine. Sign number 7. You're measuring success by perfection instead of progress. Last sign. You think you're failing at budgeting because you're not following your budget perfectly every single week. You overspent by $15 in one category. You forgot to track an expense. You made an impulse purchase. You're $3 short of your savings goal this month. And because it's not perfect, you think you're failing? So you give up. Or you beat yourself up. Or you decide budgeting doesn't work for you. This was my biggest problem. I thought budgeting success meant perfect execution, hitting every number, tracking every penny, never overspending in any category, never making mistakes. That's not budgeting success. That's impossible perfection that sets you up for failure. Real budgeting success looks like knowing approximately where your money goes, making mostly intentional spending decisions, having fewer financial surprises over time, feeling less stressed about money than you did before, actually maintaining the budget for more than 3 months. Perfect execution isn't the goal. Sustainable improvement is the goal. The fix. Measure your budgeting success by progress, not perfection. I now do a monthly review where I ask, am I generally staying within my budget ranges? Did I handle irregular expenses without panicking? Am I making more intentional decisions than impulsive ones? Is my financial stress lower than last month? Am I actually maintaining this budget without hating it? If the answers are mostly yes, I'm succeeding. Even if I overspent by $20. Even if I forgot to track something. Even if I made some impulse purchases. Progress over perfection. Sustainability over optimization. Better over perfect. What actually works? So what does a good budget actually look like? Here's what I learned after years of getting it wrong. A good budget is based on reality, not aspiration. It tracks your actual life, not an idealized version. A good budget is simple enough that you'll actually maintain it. 5 to 7 categories, maximum, not 17. A good budget accounts for irregular expenses by building them into monthly planning. No more surprises. A good budget matches your brain's needs. Physical cash if you need tangible feedback. Digital if that works better for you. A good budget adjusts month to month based on what's actually happening in your life. A good budget includes room for being human. Fun money, mistake money, spontaneity money. A good budget measures success by progress and sustainability, not by perfect execution. I spent 3 years budgeting wrong. I thought I was bad at money management. Turns out I was just using budgeting methods designed for different people in different circumstances. Now my budget is simpler, more flexible, more realistic, and actually sustainable. I don't track every penny. I don't have perfect categories. I don't hit every target every month, but I know where my money goes. I make mostly intentional decisions. I handle irregular expenses without panic. My financial stress is lower than it's ever been. That's what successful budgeting actually looks like. Not perfection, not optimization, just sustainable, realistic management of money in a way that works with your actual life. The challenge: look at your current budget and ask yourself, is it based on how I actually spend money or how I wish I spent money? Is it simple enough that I maintain it as hourly, or is tracking it a part-time job? Does it account for all my irregular annual expenses, or am I constantly surprised by unexpected costs? Does it work with how my brain processes money? Or am I fighting my own psychology? Does it adjust month to month? Or am I using the same template regardless of what's actually happening? Does it include room for being human? Or does any deviation feel like failure? Am I measuring success by perfection or by sustainable progress? If you answered honestly and found problems, you're not bad at budgeting. You've just been using a flawed budget. Drop a comment. Which of these 7 signs describes your budgeting struggle? What budgeting method has actually worked for you? If this helped you realize your budget has been the problem, not you, share it with someone who's been beating themselves up for failing at budgeting. Your budget should serve your life, not complicate it. If your budget is making you stressed, exhausted, or feeling like a failure, the budget is wrong. Fix the budget. You're probably fine.